Kia ora and welcome everyone to Spa Park here in Taupo for the 2023 New Zealand Cross Country Champs. My name is Hayden Shearman. I'm joined by Hamish Meacham, Community Manager from Athletics New Zealand. We have a wonderful day of weather and a wonderful day of racing in store, Hamish.
That's exactly right, Hayden. It's currently about 3 degrees here in Spa Park in Taupo. Fantastically clear weather, no wind. Started out at about -2 this morning, and then as the clouds have cleared, the sun's come out. It looks like a perfect day for cross-country racing.
Absolutely. You really couldn't have asked for much more. And heading up this morning around the course, there's ice, and there we see a bit of a lineup for the program. We're starting with the oldies, the wiser heads in the field today. So it will be the Masters men to kick us off, then the Masters women, and the Masters men 35 to 64. So a lot of competition to go, and seeing the juniors running this morning, I saw some bare feet out there, and I can tell you there is still ice on the ground in the shady parts. But as you can see, the sun is just pouring down on Spa Park, and look at this beautiful coming all the way in from outer space into the northern end of Lake Taupo. We're right on the banks of the Waikato River, and here is an overview of the stunning course, which really is one of the most loved cross-country courses and hated cross-country courses in the country. So Hamish, talk us through this famous course.
Yeah, Spa Park in Taupo. It is one of the great ones to see the athletes here. This is about 1 kilometre into the course. A little bit of a flat section to start off in the start-finish area, and then we see the athletes here. This is this epitomises the course. Lots of technical elements, a few hurdles, quite a few tight turns, and this there is Heartbreak Hill, Hayden. It's about a 500-metre uphill section, and that's really, really what we see through a lot of this course. Outside of that start-finish area, the course is just up, down. Not tight turns, but lots of turns, so very technical. So while the footing underfoot is really firm and allows for fast running, super challenging course, Hayden.
And look at these beautiful scenes as you come down towards the Waikato River. So we're going to call that big downhill. It's a really significant downhill. We'll call it Riverview Hill. And this is, for anyone who's come to Spa Thermal Park, you'll know you park at the car park and then you walk down to the hot springs right on the edge of the river. So that's where the runners will go on the 3K course. And here's the nasty little bit of the course, because we're calling this hill Playground Hill. And it's a nasty, pinchy old hill, about 400, 500 metres from the finish.
Yeah, a real test for an athlete's fitness. You want to be in good shape to tackle this course, and there's many athletes, over 500 athletes here today, Hayden, who are in exactly that great shape and ready to smash it here at Spa Park in Taupo. As we see the Masters men 65 plus lining up. There is, in fact, 4 races within the race here, so 60 to 65, 70 to 74, 75 to 79, and 80 to 84. 24 athletes in total. Who should we keep an eye out for, Hayden?
Well, this is going to be a really cool matchup, because we've got the reigning champ from the M65s from last year and the year before. He's now in the M70, so that's Graham Lear. And then the reigning champ from the M70s last year, Dennis Litt. So they're going to be going head-to-head in that M70 division. And then keep an eye out for the likes of Graham McKay, second in the M65s last year, and Tony Price, who won the road title in the M65.
Yeah, and there he is right in the middle there, number 272, Dennis Litt, confidently striding up towards the start line. Out of the Hamilton City Hawks Club in Kirikiriroa, a very well-performed, very experienced athlete. I remember Dennis Litt, he's hardly aged a day from when I was a teenager in Hamilton, and he used to kick my skinny little behind all over cross-country courses across the Waikato. And 20 plus years on, he's still out there, still doing his thing. They're about to get underway. The Masters Men 65 plus Athletics New Zealand Cross Country Championships here at Spa Park in Taupo.
So the first race of our coverage is underway, and they are going to be doing 6K. So that's 2 laps of the 3K course. So here at Spa Park, we've got two separate courses. One is the full 3K loop, and then we've got a shorter 2K loop that we occasionally use. Now, essentially how each of these 3K laps works is, imagine a star with 4 points, and they've just started at one of those points, and now they head to a central part of the course, and there we see right to the front Dennis Litt. He is starting strong, putting a little bit of pressure on those boys behind him.
And that is Tony Price from Masterton in the distinctive yellow Wellington singlet. About 5 metres back at the moment, but Dennis Litt looking very strong. Interesting, Hayden, what we see in those shady parts. You can still see some heavy frost on the ground, but that has thawed with sunshine across most of the course. But there will be a little bit of a slip danger, I imagine, in some of the darker parts of the course with the ice on the ground, Hayden.
Yeah, I noticed as well even the fences are covered with ice. So the low fences, probably, 50 centimetres off the ground. But if you do put your foot on them and you're not wearing spikes, they're probably going to be pretty slippy. So definitely you'd want to keep an eye out for that. So there we go. We've got Graham Lear wearing the colours of Tasman. But leading the way is Dennis Litt from Waikato Bay of Plenty, and he's looking pretty strong so far.
Looking very strong, and got to mention some fantastic drone footage coming in, something we debuted at last year's championships here in Taupo, which really, that drone footage, Hayden, we see a shot now, really does illustrate just how close and exciting this racing is and how beautiful this course is.
Oh, it's a stunning park. When you come here, when it's not a cross-country race, you're just like, this park is made for cross-country. This place is awesome. So there's one of those fences that I mentioned that is a bit icy, and they go over another one, across the road. So you can see, as you mentioned at the top of the coverage, it's some really technical elements. You know, you've got road crossings, you've got little fences, you've got these tight corners, and a little bit of a move up onto the shoulder of Dennis Litt.
And it does look like Dennis Litt from Waikato Bay Plenty and Graham Lear from Tasman seems to have come up onto his shoulder. So great to see some fantastic racing right off the bat here. We, of course, have already had a few junior races, under 14s and under 16s. Those national championship races are done and out of the way. But this is our first televised race, Masters Men 65 plus.
And I would just like to do a shout out. If anyone's granddad is racing right now, make sure you jump in those comments. And if you've got a dad or an uncle in here, because this is really cool that these guys are still going this strong, well into their 60s. And I know for a lot of the Masters athletes, they hit 65 and then adopt this persona. I'm now a professional athlete. Yep. The government is paying me to be a professional athlete. None of this pensioner status. I am a full-time athlete.
Back to full-time athlete. They're doing the cross-training. They're aqua-jogging. They're getting hydrotherapy, all sorts of stuff. Interesting little hurdle here, quite challenging, coming off a little dip. And then the start of Heartbreak Hill. So 400 metres of uphill now ahead of these athletes, and we often see fields start to break up at exactly this point, Hayden.
Whoever that was in 6th place wearing the yellow and purple, I think, maybe a University of Canterbury top.
I think so.
That was beautiful hurdling technique.
It's great to see.
All the others put their foot on the bar, but we saw that leading leg come up nice and straight, trail leg, whipping over.
And we see a bit of a change in the leadership here, Hayden. It looks like Graham Lear from Tasman has pulled ahead and taken a little bit of a lead over Dennis Litt here as they still continue to grind up Heartbreak Hill. What goes up must come down, though. So being a good uphill runner, all good and well, but you can actually make up a lot of ground on these downhills as well, Hayden.
Yeah, absolutely. And the battle between these two, Graham Lear, and Dennis Litt, is one for the ages, and it will continue to be so, because last year there was just 23 seconds separating them in this course. And so far, this significant move up this hill is definitely blowing apart this lead that Dennis had right at the start. So interesting. This is a really strong move from Graham.
Yeah, and it is the drone footage perhaps doesn't exactly illustrate how steep this incline is. It's about a 1 in 3 incline, and as I said, 350, maybe 400 metres all up. But they're coming back down now, Hayden, so it'll be interesting to see if Dennis Litt from Waikato Bay Plenty can close this gap on Graham Lear from Tasman.
He's definitely staying within Kui. And as you say, one of the things that athletes will have practiced out there doing the fartlek sessions through the winter is not only that uphill strength, but also that ability to maintain speed and efficiency on the downhills, not destroy the quads. Because it's one of the things that goes first, isn't it, when you're doing these hard cross-country races? The quads can really get a beating because you're just going all out when you hit the downhill sections.
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing, Hayden, because aerobic fitness is obviously paramount in order to perform well in cross-country, but strength plays such an important role here. And if I reflect on my time as a distance runner, I know, what I could run on the track. I could never transfer that over to cross-country because I just didn't have the strength that a really, really good cross-country runner has. Can you kind of expand a little bit on that, Hayden? Because it's not necessarily strength from getting into the gym and pounding out deadlifts and squats.
Yeah.
It's more of an old-fashioned, toughness sort of strength, right?
It is, because you can see the surface you're running on. There's little divots. And it's like you're running along and someone's just giving you a small nudge in a random direction every time. So that core strength to stay stable and then switch from downhill running to flat running to uphill to running on a weird lean and all those little things comes into it. Weird lean and all those little things comes into it. So, yeah, core strength. It's very hard to define, and there's certain people that just thrive off that, and then certain people like yourself perhaps that get onto the cross-country trails, and it's like, what is going on? The body is just not firing.
Yeah, look, I reflect on some of our great cross-country runners that we've had over the years, Rod Dixon, Kerry Roger, Anne here and others, and, the one thing all of our great cross-country runners have in common is that the terrain somehow didn't seem to slow them down as much as it should. So that really is, to me, the definition of cross-country strength. You have the ability to bring that fitness out and show what you've got, and the terrain doesn't interfere with it as much as it does us mere mortals.
So they've just dropped down Riverview Hill, down to the lower part of the course, and you can see that frost still on the ground, so temperatures are still pretty chilly, but I can tell you that jackets are starting to be removed, beanies are starting to come off, gloves are starting to come off, and it's going to be an absolute cracker of a day. Yeah. You couldn't have asked for it any better.
Those people taking off the jackets and the gloves and the beanies, those are not Aucklanders, I can tell you, Hayden. The Aucklanders are still wrapped up very, very tightly with their puffer jackets.
We did see one of the Auckland juniors running with bare feet.
To be fair, he was from South Auckland, so they do breed them a little bit tougher as you go further south.
Yeah.
But wow, Graham Lear from Tasman has lap one. Totally put the hammer down. He's built up, what is that, a 60-metre lead on Dennis Litt.
It's pretty impressive, and we'll have to get a split on this lap because obviously they've got 2 laps. So 3K, he's going pretty good.
Yeah, he's very good. He won't be too far away now from Playground Hill, which includes a very, very steep uphill pinch and then into some flatter running on the start-finish area. But he's looked just consistently strong the whole way. Wasn't put out by the early pace from Dennis Litt, just bided his time. In fact, let Dennis Litt go a little bit. And then on the hill, absolutely hammered it. And he's built a huge margin in a short space of time.
So Graham Lear this year has moved up into the M70s, so joining Dennis Litt in that competitive category. And so we do know that these two are leading the charge in the M70s and in this race overall, but there will be a race behind them for that M65 title.
As we see some of our Masters Men 35 out there warming up, getting ready for their event soon. So after this, we've got the Masters Women 65 plus, and then a very, very competitive Masters Men 35 plus, featuring a very strong contingent of Masters from Auckland. I think that battle between the Aucklands Masters and the Manawatu Wanganui Masters is going to be quite interesting today.
Absolutely.
And that is not Graham Lear.
I think we're looking at some of the runners a little bit further back now.
So that's Ian Calder from Whangarei, the distinctive blue of Athletics Whangarei, doing very well. I do think that is our race leader, Ian Calder, who is in the 65 to 69 age group. So Ian Calder, we've been talking this whole time about Graham Lear, so apologies to both Graham and Ian. Ian Calder from Athletics Whangarei, in fact wearing the light blue of Northlands, is absolutely dominating this race, looking very strong.
I'm always good to be happy to be corrected and surprised, and this is a really interesting change to the lineup as we see Dennis Litt. So he will still be in the lead for that M70 race within the race, but as we've found out, it's Ian Calder who is leading the charge now that we are onto the flats of the start-finish area. So it's about a 400-metre loop, come around a flat section of field.
So Ian Calder new to the Masters 65 rankings. So he's 65 years and 10 months old. So he's just moved up to this.
Spring chicken.
Yeah, best 10K of 34.45, although that was some time ago. But good history over the long distances, Ian Calder, including a 1:14 half marathon. So very well performed Masters athlete. Quite a while ago.
Okay, so 12 years ago.
But he clearly a well-performed Masters athlete who's been biding his time to step up to this 65-plus age group.
That's still pretty impressive, isn't it, for 54-year-old?
65-year-old, and 54, so running a 1:14. That's faster than what a lot of much younger men can manage. So, great to see Ian Calder.
I think most men would be happy with that at 34 or 24. So here he is, Ian Calder, finished lap 1, and the time just a tick over 12 minutes. So he's ticking along at 4-minute Ks, which on this course is no joke. So he's probably equivalent to running sort of 3:35, 3:40s on a flat course. So very impressive stuff. Now here's Dennis Litt, our leader in the M70s. And he is finishing up his lap in just under 13 minutes for Dennis going through. But it is Ian Calder who is loving life in the M65 category now, aging up, and we'll see later in the program another famous Masters athlete who has entered a new age group with Sally Gibbs aging up and sending notice to the Masters world that a lot of those Masters records are going to go down over the next 12 months with the evergreen Sally Gibbs.
Some great footage there of Mark Handley before in the Waikato Bay of Plenty uniform, looking very, very strong. So Mark, I think, will be second in the 65 to 69 age group. But Ian Calder having a look back, seeing how big of a lead he's built as he's well into his second lap now. Look at that stride. You wouldn't pick him for 65, would you, Hayden?
Going so good. Ticking along, and just he's got time now to look at the scenery, look around, and there you can see that strength just staying nice and strong through the core, handling the surface well. And there is another Auckland runner with bare feet. So the Auckland is proving the stereotype wrong.
Steve Fairley looking very strong, and there's evergreen Trevor Ogilvie gives us a little wave from Lake City. Lake City, of course, just half an hour down the road, one of the biggest and best clubs in New Zealand. Great to see them out here. Trevor wearing the Waikato Bay of Plenty uniform, but Steve Fairley looking pretty strong in his bare feet, long flowing locks.
You can see John Skinner there of Wellington running along well. Fred Needham.
Gavin Smith, former New Zealand 24 Hours champion, wearing the Athletics Tauranga kits. Great to see Gavin Smith still out from the famous Smith running family in Tauranga.
And if you're wondering who the oldest competitors in this field are, we've got Peter Ellis out there, who's in the 80 to 84, and then a big competition between him and Hutt Valley Harriers runner John Wood. So 2 contending for that prestigious 80s to 84 title, as we see Dave Clark of Hamilton City Hawks. So Hamilton City Hawks have had a little uniform upgrade. Are you aware of the...
I was... no, they
Or has that been around for a while?
The blue with the yellow on the outside that we've seen with Kevin Knowles? No?
Oh, I think we just saw another version of it.
I may or may not have been quickly sending a work-related email, Hayden, so please do forgive me, but I'll keep my eye out for that.
I was just trying to get in our compulsory fashion segment, which we usually do.
Here's the traditional Hamilton City Hawks uniform as modelled by
Graham Clarkin.
Graham Clarkin, looking very good. Graham Clarkin, a well-known steeplechaser back in his day. Steve Fairley with the long hair and the ponytail and the bare feet, looking very slick in his Athletics Auckland uniform, and in fact some regulation issue Auckland shorts. Couple of decades old, those ones. Trevor keeps waving at us. Trevor Ogilvie, that's pleasing.
There's John Skinnon, who I know has been dealing with a little bit of illness, so he's not coming in with peak form here. But John is in the 75 to 79 age group. And there's one of my fellow Taranaki runners. Got the beanie on and the thermals underneath.
Yeah, so that's Des Phillips from Taranaki. And then we see again Gavin Smith and Fred Needham. Hartier Harriers are represented. That's John Kent. Hartier Harriers out of Whangarei in Northland. We see a designated crossing spot in the course there, very busy.
And some more bare feet. Love this. This is so great. So Des Phillips trucking along with the bare feet. Got the long tights on, so keeping the legs warm, the muscles warm, but he wants that proprioception with the ground.
Is that just a bit of old school there, Hayden?
Old school,
just tough. They don't breed him like that anymore, I can tell you, Hayden. Not in Auckland anyway.
Well, in Taranaki, we walk everywhere bare feet in the snow.
10 miles to and from school every day.
Absolutely. So is that the new Hamilton?
No, well,
that's the old one, is it?
That's the old one, and that's Dave Clark, of course, modelling the famous Hamilton City Hawks uniform.
I feel like it's had a little upgrade, but maybe
maybe just a slightly
really good
new
on
style. So Hamilton City Hawks, club that popped up in the early 2000s, a merger from Hamilton City Athletics and Hamilton Harriers, and have grown to become one of the more well-known and well-rounded clubs in New Zealand.
Paul Rodway there of Wellington Scottish, talking about well-rounded clubs. Wellington Scottish, of course, always a big presence from the capital.
Yeah, one of the strongest Harrier clubs, and I always find it so interesting, Hayden, that Wellington Scottish and Wellington Harriers, two of our strongest distance running clubs, basically on each other's doorsteps down in the
across
capital.
The valley at each other. It's awesome.
That's great. That rivalry has really made the New Zealand distance running scene. It's part of what has made our scene so special over the years. And it's great to see some other clubs kind of delving in and kind of emerging and becoming really strong clubs. I'm thinking of University of Canterbury, of course, with that super strong men's team. But also the new club, the Whippets, which is only in their second year, looking very, very strong, heading into National Road Relays.
Tell you what I'd love to see more of is the US college-style dual meet, where you've got one club versus one club.
Interesting. Well, can I tell you, in Hamilton we had, to kick off every season, we had the Wilson Brown Trophy, which was a trophy for all of the Hamilton clubs. And then there ended up only being essentially two Hamilton clubs. So it was a dual meet.
Yeah.
And one of my crowning moments as an athlete was when I was club captain of Frankton Harriers. And for the first time ever, we beat the Hamilton City Hawks in the Wilson Brown Trophy. Can tell you the celebrations that night, Dave Burrett, Stephen Smith, Jason Theobald and I kicked on, had a very big night. We were pretty young, so there was actually no drinking involved, but God, we were so happy to win that. So you did right, Hayden. Inter-club rivalry is so much of what drives our sport. And it's a really positive aspect of our sport. A little bit of friendly competition goes a long way.
And tomorrow we're going to see more of it with the mixed team relays, which are club-based, not centre-based, so that will be really cool.
Yeah, which, national championships for the first time ever after our trial last year. So, look, and here we go, 5:08. That is John Wood from Hutt Valley Harriers, looking very, very strong as we see some of the Masters women warming up, getting ready to give this course a bash.
So Karen Gillam-Green, prominent figure from Taranaki, cheering on some of her runners out there on the course. She will be running again shortly as we come through the course. Now, that's not our competition leader, is it?
No, I don't think so.
But we can expect him to come through probably in about 25 minutes, and I imagine we'll be underway with the next race.
Peter Ellis from Kapiti Harrier and Triathlon Club. Very distinctive Kapiti uniform. Great to see Kapiti. That uniform has been their uniform for as long as I've been involved in the sport.
Brilliant.
If you start off with a good uniform, there's no need to change, I say.
Yeah. And so Peter Ellis, one of our M80 racers.
So he's racing for a medal in that 80 to 84 age group. Great to
just
see.
Make it to the finish and you'll get a medal.
Well, he's lapping everyone on the couch, Hayden.
Yeah. And I've got to say, 6K on this course is no joke at all.
I can tell you I would struggle to run this entire thing without stopping. And I'm not unfit. Obviously, you only need to take a quick look at me to know I'm not in my peak shape. But, yeah, really, really challenging stuff just with the ups and downs. You see here these big looping bends. Much, much more technical and difficult to manage than you think looking from this view.
Yeah. Yeah, when you think, I did a tempo run this morning along the lake, and the one corner that I encountered in the ice, I was like, oh, this is a bit hairy. But when you're constantly turning corners, constantly going up hills, and the other thing I think is the camber of cross-country courses. You don't often run on weird cambers, and we saw it at the New Zealand secondary schools cross-country down in Palmy, where for big sections you're running across a camber, and that can be really difficult.
Here we see our leader, Ian Calder from Athletics Whangarei, 65 years young, still looking very strong. That stride has shortened up a little bit as he comes off Playgrounds Hill with just under maybe 500 metres left to run in the 6 kilometre course.
Pretty impressive, and he's going to come very close to hitting 24 minutes, which would be 4-minute Ks for the course, which at 65 on this course is absolutely exceptional. So coming up onto the flat zone, and he will be very, very happy to see the sign of the finish area, and then it's basically flat to the finish. You get a little downhill kicker once you're at the top of this rise. And that downhill, you can just see it on your screen now.
Yeah.
That eases you into that start-finish area.
Yeah.
That's got to feel good.
That's got to feel great. And what's going to be interesting is just as Ian is finishing, we're going to get a start in the Masters Women's 35-plus race, which is a very, very large and impressive field. But yeah, here he goes, and you see Event HQ, Ian Calder on your left, coming up with a couple 100 metres to go. The finish line just there, out a shot to the right, and there is the big pack of Masters women getting ready to race 6 kilometres here at Spa Park in Taupo.
So, yeah, it's all about Ian Calder at the moment as we see the start of the Women's Masters. And the big question is, will last year's senior women's champ decide to run Masters or run in the seniors and try to retain her title? So Lisa Cross, what's she going to decide? Will she be on that start line? Hamish, can you spot?
Yeah, I can, Hayden. I can, and I can tell you, today's cross-country event, I don't want to be pessimistic, but it might be the swan song for Lisa Cross. She's got a degenerative issue in her knee, and she is on the start line in this Masters women's race, and she'll be absolutely determined to take out another national championship to add to her huge list.
So she's moved straight to the front with Sarah Gardner just behind her, and Sally Gibbs just behind Sarah Gardner. But Ian Calder, here he comes. He will be the first to finish in the M65 plus category. He will be your national champion in the M65 to 69. And look at this smooth, strong technique.
So impressive.
Absolutely.
Ian Calder. It's not often an athlete from Northland picks up a national title. So if you're up in the far north, be sure to celebrate this one. Ian Calder has taken out the championship here in the 65 to 69 Masters men's. Looking very, very strong all through the race. Absolutely dominant performance.
Yeah,
from
Ian Calder, write the book about Masters running and staying athletic into your later years, because we all want to get those notes. So Ian Calder gets a well-deserved rest and a fantastic run. And straight to the front goes last year's senior women's champion, Lisa Cross. And she's already making gap on Sarah Gardner behind her, who's been having a great 2023 herself now into the Masters grades.
Yeah.
But Lisa Cross taking this one by the scruff of the neck.
Yeah, looking very strong, Lisa Cross. She was, she's represented New Zealand a couple of times. Very well performed over all distances from 3,000 metres up to the marathon. One of the toughest athletes that I've ever met in my life. Here's Dennis Litt. He's had a great race to take out the Athletics New Zealand 70 to 74 championship. Well done, that man. Hamilton City Hawks represent one of your legends. Dennis Litt taking out another national title. Great to see. Here is that start list, and as we say, Hayden, Lisa Cross and Sarah Gardner, two of the standout athletes. Don't count out a few others, though.
Yeah, Sally Gibbs, so now into the women's 60 to 64 age category, so just aging up now. Karen Donaldson-Brown was second at the Auckland Champs. She'll be another one to watch.
I think Karen might be a non-starter. Home, feeling a bit unwell, so apologies to Karen. We're sad you couldn't make it. We know you would have loved to have had a crack today. We look forward to seeing you back next year.
Also want to point out Rachel Penny. She was third at the North Island Cross Country Masters Champs just a few weeks ago. Katie Wyrell coming down from Auckland. She won her age group up there. So some big names from coming around all over the country to take part in this race. And there we saw Mark Was that Mark Handley? Yeah, that's Mark Handley crossing. He's in the 65 to 69 age group. Probably went over to shake Ian Calder's hand. So I didn't see your whole race, mate. How did your race go?
The loneliness of the long distance runner. We'll see a little bit less of this as we get to the junior and senior races, where the packs tend to be a bit tighter. But in this Masters women's race, similar to the Masters men, we already have a big lead for Lisa Cross out of Auckland. Lisa Cross, she's been a police officer, she's been a jockey, she is involved in coaching runners through the TTT running club in South Auckland. She's a mother, she's represented New Zealand a number of times. She's been one of our best over the years. There is a chance she'll double back and also run the senior women's race. But yeah, national champion last year in dominant fashion here at Spa Park in Taupo.
Have we ever had a representative from World Cross take part in the women's Masters New Zealand Cross Country Champs in the same year? That's quite a feat.
It is quite a feat.
So 64th at World Cross at Bathurst.
Yeah, there would have been a couple. The likes of Anne here was probably still representing New Zealand up into her late 30s. But no, yeah, you could be on to something.
Potentially.
Melissa Moon. She maybe...
Certainly World Mountain Champs.
Mountains, and then doubling back to running Masters, yes. Got such a history in New Zealand of really, really strong female cross-country athletes, and a really, really pleasing history of them being good, having long and fruitful careers.
Yeah. getting that mum strength. Like, we're going to see Sarah Drought in the coming in, you would say, as the firm favourite for the senior women's race. But there seems to be that mum strength that kicks in.
That mum strength, and just, I've got to say, taking it a step further than that, it really impresses me how they carve out the time to do this. So, you know, being a mum and often working either full-time or part-time, and look, I've got to be honest, having a wife myself, I know she carries more than her fair share of the domestic duties. I imagine it's the same for these ladies. I'm not saying that's great or fair, but how they get the time in to run all of the kilometres, build all of the strength, and then run this well, it impresses me so much.
Yeah. And we do know that you're mildly trying to dig yourself out of a hole, this being your wife's birthday and all. So
I'm not doing a very good job of that, am I, Hayden? Happy birthday, Kelly Meacham. I hope you have a fantastic day. She never tunes in to listen to me, so I know she won't be listening.
All right. So we don't need to keep digging out of that hole. All right.
Very good.
I hope you've got the restaurant booked tonight in Pataratu.
It's dinner at the in-laws. There's only one restaurant in Pataratu, and we've eaten everything on the menu. So just have a lovely dinner at home tonight. Maybe a bottle of wine. It should be great.
Look at these beautiful scenes here at Spa Thermal Park in Taupo. The Stream Shop just doing an excellent job. Look at this flyover.
Waikato River in the background. One of the most scenic places to go for a run in New Zealand. Lisa Cross is not taking in any of this scenery. She is just hammering herself and hammering this Masters women's field at the moment, Hayden.
Look at this downhill over Riverview Hill. She is rolling along, and just picture perfect scenes here at Spa Thermal Park. So if you ever come here, right down there, right next to the river is a natural hot spring where you can just find a little rock pool and soak in the hot spring, and then swim out into the Waikato River, which is beautifully clear, but freezing cold this time of year. So you can do that sort of ice bath, hot pool combo, which is pretty special.
It is. There's all sorts of places around the world where you'd be paying top dollar to experience what you can walk down and access for free here in Taupo. It is one of the true nature's playgrounds, not only here in New Zealand but worldwide. Great place to work, play and live. We're very, very grateful for the support of the Taupo District Council in bringing you today's events. The local council has provided amazing support across both years of hosting the New Zealand Cross Country Championships at this wonderful venue of Spa Thermal Park. Make sure you check out everything Taupo has to offer. It is one of New Zealand's most beautiful and iconic locations with so much to see and do. We see one of our Masters men's athletes still out there battling, very wise with the beanie still on his head, Hayden. That is John Bauer, out of Auckland, proudly wearing the Auckland uniform. Great to see.
Really good to see, and wise move rugging up, because although the sun is out, the temperatures are still very much single digits in the shade. There's still ice on the ground from quite a heavy frost last night, and you can see the mountains and even the hills in the distance are all snow-capped. I'm sure some of our Wellington and Manawatu athletes who came over the desert road would have driven through snow on the way. So you know you're in midwinter. You know you're going to Taupo for cross country when you're driving through snow. And Lisa Cross continues her impressive opening to this Masters Women's National Champs. And she hit the lead right from the gun and has continued to move away. So shortly we'll be able to get an update on how she's poised back to Sarah Gardner, who was in second, and then it was Sally Gibbs.
So 40 years old Lisa Cross ran at the World Cross Country Championships in Bathurst earlier this year, finished in 64th position. I think the second New Zealand finisher there. She's got personal bests ranging from 10:04 over 3,000 metres through to 2:41 for the marathon. One of our most well-performed distance runners out of Auckland, formerly coached by John Bowden, now kind of coached by John Bowden with James Kugler helping out.
Who we just saw give her a high five.
Yeah, 9 New Zealand Championship medals for Lisa Cross. Very impressive athlete and an impressive human being. She is dominating this Masters women's race here at Spa Park in Taupo.
The kids, no doubt, will be cheering Mum along as she steams round this first lap. And it'll be good to keep an eye on the clock and see how she compares to Ian Calder's time of just a tick over 12 minutes for the first lap. These women, again, doing 6K, much like the men, so 2 3K laps. But she is running very, very strong, looking like it'll be sub 4-minute Ks. And I can tell you that Sarah Gardner is sitting in second place behind her. Look like one of her daughters running along with the camera. And then it's only about 20 metres back to Sally Gibbs, who is running brilliantly as well.
Yeah, Sally Gibbs now representing Manawatu Wanganui Athletics. Very well performed. She's actually won national senior titles within the past 5 years, Sally Gibbs. But very, very well performed as a Masters athlete. But it's all Lisa Cross at the moment. Her lead is out. It's beyond 100 metres now at this stage, Hayden, as she comes through just a tick under 11 minutes through 3,000 metres.
That is incredible. Now, I did a tempo run this morning along the flat of Lake Taupo. It was the same speed as this, but with no hills. And
you would have been fair puffing as well.
I only did 3K. So I don't know if you call that a tempo run or is that an interval.
Here we go. The high fives from the kids and the coach, Lisa Cross. Very, very impressive running here from the Aucklander.
What do we think? Where does tempo run start and interval end? Can I call my 3K run a tempo run?
So if you've done 2 of them, yeah. With interval, you need to do more than one. So what you should have done is had a little 1 minute break at 1.5 kilometres, and then it could have been 2 intervals, you see?
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's only an interval if you do more than one. So no, it's a very unusually short tempo run.
Unusually short tempo.
And our big track, our big group of ladies here, 3-4 Auckland ladies, with Waikato Bay Plenty and Wellington singlets peppering in a great group of 7 athletes, 6 athletes there moving together. Great to see. It is a lot easier out there, Hayden, if you've got people around you to key off, drag you along. 2 athletes from Tasman. Great to see Tasman. There's been fantastic growth in the Tasman region over the past couple of years.
So Catherine Delaporte and Paula Canning out of Nelson. But it's all about this young lady, Lisa Cross, who is just steaming around this course, and I bet she's loving these cooler conditions compared to what she faced in Bathurst back in February.
Yeah, she's not a big fan of the heats, if I'm to be fair, Lisa Cross. Very tough. Now, there's a fantastic old school singlet, New Plymouth Harriers. That is number 289, Casey Manty, in the 35 to 39 age group. Sarah Gardner looking strong out of Athletics Tauranga, coached by Craig Kirkwood, one of New Zealand's foremost distance coaches and a pretty good triathlon coach as well, if I may say, Hayden.
Not bad, yeah.
Yeah, sneaky Olympic medal.
And now first-time sprint world champion with Hayden Wild. So yeah, very cool.
Fantastic. I did see Commonwealth Games rep. I've got to try and remember that athlete's name, just running in the group there.
So we did see Sally Gibbs. She's sitting in 3rd place on the course. 1st place in the women's 60. As we see Rachel Penny, who is one of the ones to look out for an age group medal here. But look at Lisa Cross going through the technical part of the course. This is what we're calling Heartbreak Hill, running up through the trees. It's quite a steep incline.
Champion was fantastic running at the North Island Championship.
Yeah, so I did see briefly number 424, Lauren Shelley. She's in the 45 to 49 age group. Runs for the Cambridge Club, representing Waikato Bay Plenty today. She's actually an Australian, represented Australia at the Commonwealth Games in the marathon.
Right.
And is a physiotherapist for High Performance Sport New Zealand. So great to see Lauren Shelley having moved to New Zealand and making a comeback into the running scene.
So Lisa Cross got the course all to herself, deciding to go for the Masters race today. She was booked in for both the Masters and the Senior Women's. It remains to be seen if she will jump back into the Senior Women's. Maybe do that as a warm down, who knows. But so far she's about, what are we now, 4.5k into this race, and she continues to pull away from this woman, Sarah Gardner, who won the North Island Cross Country Masters title just a few weeks ago, running 19:18 for the 5K on that day.
She's working really hard. Great to see her using her arms in the early part of that hill, driving hard. There's Sally Gibbs.
Let's look at this hurdling technique. 60 years of age, looking pretty clean. And then just behind her was that Joanne Wainwright?
No, I think that's Heather Walker in the 50 to 54 age group out of Wellington. Heather Walker having a great race. Aisha Shafi from Wellington as well, looking very good. She's newer to the Masters ranks.
Yeah, she's sitting in 5th place at the moment, is Aisha. But look at this, Lisa Cross coming up the hill and looking very strong still, really in tempo run mode. As we can see in front of us here back at the start-finish area, all the Masters men 35 to 64 are going through their stride outs.
There you see the gap. So that is Sarah Gardner going up the hill with about a 150-metre deficit on Lisa Cross, who is cruising down the hill at the moment, looking very, very comfortable.
So at the 3K halfway mark, I had about 40 seconds back to Sarah Gardner. So it'll be interesting to see if that has just been eaten into a little. Sally Gibbs was another 10 seconds back from Sarah. So those three leading the charge at the moment.
And great to see Alicia Loveridge out on the course, getting some quality snaps for the Instagram and Facebook feed. Love your work, Alicia Loveridge, the most well-known athletics photographer in New Zealand, and in fact one of the best in the world. We're very lucky to have Alicia on board. Do be sure to check her out on Instagram. She does some great work profiling our sport.
She'll be loving this light, this muted light coming through the winter trees.
Yeah, she
nice morning fog.
Big field in the Masters men 35 to 64.
There's Paula Conda from Wanganui.
Fantastic to see the Condor family, one of the most well-known Harrier families in New Zealand. Rob Condor very well performs over a number of distances, but especially cross-country. And his son's currently competing over in the States in the NCAA system. You see a couple of tourists just walking their way up from the Waikato River, stopping to admire the form of Lisa Cross as she hoons down the hill, looking very strong. Hayden, Lisa Cross has been so impressive today. Can't say enough about this young lady. Really shame to hear about her knee issues, which sound like they're permanent and are going to eventually curtail the amount of running she can do. So it's fantastic she's able to come out here and pick up this national title.
Does that mean look out cycling world?
Maybe, perhaps.
Hope so. Hope it can translate into another endurance sport. But here we go. Lisa Cross, she is reaching the bottom of that Riverview Hill, and it's a big old climb to go, and then we've got that nice flat section of the start-finish area.
Really, really good there, Hayden, at attacking that sharp pinch of a hill, not letting the hill defeat her.
So about 1K to go?
Defeats the hill. Correct, Hayden. About a K to go, so she'll hit the finish line in about 23:30 or so. See how good or bad my math is. But we're just less than a minute away from a start in the men's 35 plus. In fact, 2 minutes away it should be if they go off on time from the men's 35 to 64 championship race.
So last year Sally Gibbs took out the 50 to 64 race over the 6K course with the 23:26. So she went sub 4 minute Ks, and it was actually Sarah Douglas who took out the 35 women's. So
Great to see those regional colours so well represented. If we go from the right, Hawke's Bay, Gisborne, through to Wellington, Manawatu, Wanganui, Waikato Bay of Plenty, the blue of Auckland, the yellow of Wellington. Strong contingent from Canterbury, mixed in with a few Otago athletes. It's interesting, actually, the Wellingtonians and the Aucklanders. Some of them have drifted off to slightly different spots on the start line, but gotta love the regional representation here at the Athletics New Zealand Cross Country Championships as we're underway in the men's 35 to 49 championship race.
This is a 6K course, so 2 laps of the 3K course, and out very, very strong right from the start. Genfu from Wanganui, he has come here to make a bit of a statement and get these boys out of the blocks nice and quick. But this is going to be very competitive. We've got some names from yesteryear really making a return to the national scene.
Yeah, super exciting, actually. This is going to be one of the more competitive races of the day, and particularly that team race for the Masters men is going to be so exciting. As we see Lisa Cross now coming up, just a couple of 100 metres to go for Lisa Cross. I think she might blow away my predicted time. She's had such a strong run out on the course today, absolutely dominated from the first couple of steps of the race. Representing Athletics Auckland is a member of TTT Runners. James Kugler leads that club alongside Lisa Cross, a new club on the scene in Auckland, based out of South Auckland.
So 200 metres to go now for Lisa Cross. It is all flat running, and there is not another runner in sight. It's just her and the race course and the finish line and the crowd to bring her home. She'll be very happy to see the end of this race, and look at that time. With 200 metres to go, she's going to be way under 23 minutes. Just incredible running around Spa Park from Lisa Cross today. And this will be one of the things to keep an eye out as we see the splits for the senior women's and kind of get an idea of how well would have she done over the 10K. Now here's Sarah Gardner coming up the hill for the last time. You can see how hard she's had to work to get up that hill. But she'll be looking at the finish area now with about 400 metres to go. But right at the finish area is Lisa Cross. She got 64th at the World Cross Country Champs in Bathurst. Here she is. She's going to be first across the line in the Masters woman. She will win her age group, that's for sure, in the 40 to 44. But she's put on an absolute dominating display to take home the Masters women's title. Clicks the watch. Job done. Well done, Lisa Cross. Our senior women's reigning champ from last year comes back, wins the Masters women this year.
Yeah, and what's ticking through her mind right now, Hayden, is how quickly can I recover? Maybe I want to have a bash at that senior women's race. Help out the Auckland team to pick up another team championship. So
go and get some cheeky lunch. Get that down.
Yeah, we see out in the distance there Sarah Gardner, followed by Sally Gibbs. Looking very strong. Here is the front pack of the Masters men's race. Manawatu Wanganui looking very strong at the moment. A couple of Canterbury athletes. The Auckland boys been a bit more subdued in the early parts of this race. Some very skilled hurdling there, Hayden.
We need to keep an eye on that black singlet of Waikato Bay of Plenty there with the, what would we call that, number 3, number 4 sort of shaved head of Ben Ruth. He's certainly one to watch. But another Tauranga athlete, Sarah Gardner, she's been having a good old year so far and finishing very strong. She will win her age group with a big finishing kick. And really the top 5 in the women's race will, I believe, all win their age group. So they're all coming from different age groups. So winning the 35 to 39, Sarah Gardner, solid run.
Fantastic running, Sarah Gardner. Look at that smile. She's happy with that one. Tough race. Gets a drink from the daughter. Very good. And Alicia Loveridge. How did she make it across the course that quickly to get that photo op? Very good running from Alicia Loveridge. Yeah.
And here she is, Sally Gibbs, now in the women's 60 to 64 age group. She will win her age group and get 3rd for the bragging rights in the race. And behind her, Heather Walker from Wellington Scottish will win the women's 50 to 54. There's Sally. You can see how much that course hurts.
Yeah, I always find it a bit cruel. These marshals do have the job to move the athletes on, get them moving. They don't want to bottleneck there. There's Aisha Safi from Wellington.
She might have. Did she pass Heather Walker? Maybe we just missed Heather finishing.
Yeah, I think we just missed Heather, but that is a great run from Aisha Safi to finish second in her age group, unofficially. And Rachel Penny, the national steeplechase champion from long ago, rounding around to come into the finish straight.
So a bit cruel. We have the younger Masters athletes now flying past the older Masters athletes who are on their second lap. So we've got the freshness and the more youth in their legs just whizzing past, and it's good to see a big pack of the 35 to 64 athletes running through this field. I can see James Kugler there at the back.
Steve Rees-Jones leading from Simon Mace. Steve Rees-Jones, Waikato Bay of Plenty. Simon Mace in the Auckland singlet, a member of the Owairaka Club, which has such a strong Masters unit at the moment, Owairaka. Great. Oh, some more bare feet there in this Masters men's field. Very good to see. Tight racing, though. That lead pack, currently about 12 athletes. And then a long tail back through to the top 20. So great racing here in the Masters men. 35 to 64. 8 kilometres of cross-country action at Spa Park in Taupo.
So it's 8 kilometres, is it?
Well, here's the thing, Hayden. I'm guessing. The 65 plus was 6 kilometres.
Yes.
So it would only make sense that this is 8 kilometres.
I'm getting the
thumbs.
program say 6K.
Yeah, I'm getting the thumbs up from the producer, though.
I think you're right
I'm confident.
here.
I'm backing myself. Steve Rees-Jones doesn't mind leading. Well-performed middle distance runner in his youth. Originally from the UK, been living in New Zealand now for the best part of 2 or 3 decades. Greg Derbyshire in that lead pack. At the back of that lead pack, you've got Nick Moore, who was second in this race last year. Where's Ben Ruth? Ben Ruth.
Right there, 4:08.
In the middle of that
Just looking at his watch now.
Former national champion over a variety of distances. The man who denied me my junior 800-metre title in 1999
still bitter.
at Porritt Stadium in Hamilton. I thought I had him with 100 to go, and he pulled away. Turns out he was a much better athlete than I ever was, so I needn't feel too bad. Ben Ruth is probably the hot favourite heading into today's race, right?
Yeah, I also spotted Oliver O'Sullivan, who won this race last year in the 35 to 49 category.
Mark Searle and David Lovelock looking very good there. Go ahead, Hayden. Apologies.
Yeah, no, I was just going to also point out, just spotting Taranaki athletes, really. Michael O'Sullivan there with the Taranaki gear on, but 10 athletes leading the charge at the moment, so it continues. Steve Rees-Jones, Simon Mace right behind him, Dan Clendon, who's always been good in cross-country. When you mentioned earlier about strength over the mixed terrain and ability to take on hills, not only up but also down, Dan Clendon is one of those men.
Who's that Otago at? Is that Brent Halley? No, Brent Halley's 55 to 59.
So Oliver O'Sullivan is 355.
That's right. He featured quite heavily in last year's race, so we'll call that and say Oliver O'Sullivan currently sitting in 4th position in the still big pack of 10. Nick Moore has bridged the gap and is part of that league pack now. So we see kind of a chase pack beginning, or a couple of chase packs beginning to form here.
I think this is one of the most exciting, certainly deep fields of Masters men's racing at National Cross Country we've seen in a while. It's just phenomenal to have, it's 11 men all running together, and we are, coming up 3K into the race, so still can't separate these boys out as Steve Rees-Jones continues to hammer away at the front, try to thin out this pack. It's starting to become single file, but perhaps that's just the effect of the hurdle that they're going over as they go through the pine section of this course.
Yeah, what's Steve Rees-Jones thinking here? Because he's got pretty good speed, Steve Rees-Jones. He'd be fairly confident of taking these guys in a sprint. So is he just trying to, do you think, Hayden, thin out this field?
Potentially. Yeah, because you never know who's behind you. You always might have some guy's got a background in 1500, 800 running, and now starting to add a bit of endurance to that. So perhaps
at the recent North Island Championships, Ben Ruth, who's currently sitting in 5th from the Waikato Bay of Plenty, he won from Steve Rees-Jones. Is that correct?
Let me just...
It was a pretty close race from what I remember, Hayden. So I do...
Yes, so 6 seconds separated those two.
So I wonder if Steve Rees-Jones has thought about this heading into this race and gone, okay, how am I going to beat this cagey Ben Ruth character? And maybe he's decided the best way to do that is to run the speed out of him and test his fitness.
So talk to us a little bit about Ben Ruth. What was his optimum distance?
Oh, that's a great question. Coming up, he was very much an 800, 1500 metre type guy, really good speed. As a senior, I want to say he picked up national titles from every distance from 1500 through to at least the 10K. He ran a pretty good marathon from what I can remember. He won a lot of stuff. Never made it to a black singlet meet, so not a World Champs, Commonwealth Games or Olympics.
But one of those guys knocking on the door.
There or thereabouts. Yep. Of course, married Jessica Ruth, who was Jessica Wright, one of the most famous running families in New Zealand. And now it's really great to see him. He's coming back into the sport via his kids. So his kids featured very heavily in some of those junior races. They're looking really, really good. The genetics of those kids, oh my goodness, they're destined for success if they can fall in love with the sport.
Kids.
Yeah, but no, it's great to see. It's great to see these athletes coming back into the sport. And for Ben, it is very much his kids bringing him back into the sport. So totally awesome in my books. So we see Steve Rees-Jones still doing the donkey work.
Yeah, right up the front.
Trying to break
Oliver
the
Sullivan just next to him, and then Simon Mace, and then it's Ben Ruth and Dan Clendon. Greg Derbyshire sitting in 6th place, who we haven't mentioned a lot.
Yep, from the University of South Dakota years and years ago, the steeplechase specialist. He's continued on. He's never really slowed down, Greg Derbyshire. I don't know how he does it, but a fantastically performed athlete over a variety of distances. So we see a long tail back. So, of course, the race within the race, we've got athletes from 35 all the way through to 64 years of age in this one.
So our leading pack of 11 has been whittled down to 8. And I want to do a shout out because there's a lot of fans of Greg Derbyshire out there on the internet. So if you are one of those fans, be sure to jump in the comments section and give him some love. I'm sure there's already a White Kenyan quote in there.
I wasn't going to say it, but I'm glad you did, Hayden. It's well known, particularly in the Auckland scene, Greg Derbyshire. Don't count him out today. And that chase pack of 3 led by Nick Moore, they'll be determined to close that gap. Nick Moore was second in this Masters Men 40 to 45 race last year. Simon Mace, of course, the winner. It'll be very interesting to see. He had a great year in 2022, Simon Mace.
Let's look at this downhill technique and see if this is an area where we might start to see some of this pack just start to be broken up a little bit more. And as I said, 8. Looks like those 2 Auckland athletes, maybe even the 3 of them, have used that downhill to make contact again with the pack. So interesting to see the different ways that different athletes attack this course. Some will attack the hills, some will use the downhill to just bridge any gaps that form on those hills. So our pack of 8 has re-emerged as a pack of 11. So we're all back together again as we enjoy this beautiful Taupo sunshine. It's going to be like this all day, and I think tomorrow's looking like it's going to be crisp and clear again.
Yeah,
for the mixed relays.
Really looking forward to tomorrow, and it is a great addition to this meet. Got to acknowledge our sponsors, who we're very grateful to have on board. Without their support, we couldn't deliver these awesome events, especially a huge thank you to our major community partner, Douglas Pharmaceuticals, for their continued support and commitment to Athletics New Zealand. Their support enables us to deliver community and event initiatives across New Zealand, As a local family-owned company, they produce a wide range of high-quality pharmaceutical and...
So last year, in the 35 to 64 category, Oliver O'Sullivan took it out from Otago, who's sitting there in about third place, and in a time of 27:15. So I'm going to say that that time's going to be broken today, because the depth of this and quality of this leading pack of 11 men will surely be pushing that tempo along.
Yep.
And it looks like
Ooh,
this
bit of
playground
a gap,
hill.
Bit of a gap. Simon Mace.
Ben Ruth starting to emerge. So, yeah, Simon Mace just starting to be dropped off the back, along with the other 6 athletes who were making up that pack of 11. And these 3 starting to apply some pressure on the hill. So we've got Oliver O'Sullivan from Otago, and we have Ben Ruth.
High quality field. If you're dropping Simon Mace less than halfway through the event, you're running very well. But Simon Mace, he'll be keen to the end. It is the combined work of Oliver O'Sullivan and Steve Rees-Jones.
Interesting, those leading 3 are actually from different age groups as well. So Ben Ruth, 40 to 44, Steve Rees-Jones, 45 to 49, and then Oliver O'Sullivan, 35 to 39.
Well, if it continues like that, then everyone gets a gold medal, which is not a bad thing.
Exactly. So maybe a bit of team tactics. Hey, we can share, we can work together and share out the goods.
Yeah, but where it's not broken down is in the teams race. So the teams race, all of these athletes count together. So at the moment, we see 2 Canterbury athletes there in the top 10. We've got 2 Waikato Bay of Plenty athletes out the fronts. But Auckland 4 athletes in the top 10 currently, and I think it's 5 to count.
5 to count.
So very exciting teams race. We won't be able to tell you the exact results until later on in the day, but we see here Oliver O'Sullivan from Otago now taking this race by the scruff of the neck.
So this will be coming up 5K?
Yeah.
So 3K to go. So they're going through in 16:50. Through 5K on this course, which on a flat course you've got to be calling well under 16 minutes. So this is moving, this is shifting, and this big move here from Oliver O'Sullivan is really pulling this big pack apart, as Ben Ruth is trying to stay in contact, Steve Rees-Jones trying to stay in contact. But it's safe to say that bungee cords are being stretched all over the show.
Yeah, look, it's really interesting, actually, a very uniform kind of 2-metre gap from Oliver O'Sullivan to Ben Ruth to Steve Rees-Jones to Daniel Clendon. But as we say that, Ben Ruth working very, very hard to come onto the shoulder of Oliver O'Sullivan. I'm sure Oliver O'Sullivan's got to be aware of what kind of finishing speed Ben Ruth has. Being a former track specialist, Oliver O'Sullivan will want to do a bit of work in this final 3-kilometre lap. He won't want Ben Ruth that close to him heading into the final home straight.
Maybe that is a deliberate move from Oliver, who won this race last year, but just being aware of the pedigree of Ben Ruth, and maybe he got a little word from some of his Otago teammates. Watch that guy Ben behind you, because he's got wheels.
He's not bad.
So Oliver O'Sullivan leading the way in this quality Masters men's 8-kilometre cross-country race around Spa Park in Taupo. It's wonderful to have your company here on the coverage on the Athletics New Zealand YouTube stream. And if you haven't done it already, be sure to hit that share button. Copy the link over to your club social media, your personal social media. Send it out to your uncle and auntie, your other whānau club mates, and make sure everyone who needs to be watching this is watching very closely.
So if you're a bit of a fan of running at home and you want a little bit of, a marker as to where these guys are, Oliver O'Sullivan just recently in April ran a half marathon in 1 hour, 10 minutes and 4 seconds to finish 6th at the Christchurch Marathon. So he is...
That's 4 seconds has got to break your heart.
Yeah, and that's his personal best. But so great to see a guy who's a Masters athlete running the fastest he's ever run.
Yeah,
very cool. Yeah, very, very cool as they head up towards that very technical bit, a few little hurdles, and then Heartbreak Hill. Oliver O'Sullivan has done what he needed to do. He's built a little bit of a gap over Ben Ruth from Waikato Bay of Plenty. He's run very, very aggressively through this part of the course, Oliver O'Sullivan. Looks like at least a 15-metre gap, 20-metre gap that he's put on Ben Ruth in a very, very short space of time, Hayden.
Yeah, it really goes back to, remember when they're at the bottom of Riverview Hill, so that was only 1,500 metres, like a mile ago. They were all together as a pack of 11, and then they hit Playground Hill, and he stepped on the gas. And you can see he's running with intent, he's running with purpose. He's saying, I want last year's title again. Ben Ruth looks like he has opted for conserving and not going after him. And then Steve Rees-Jones and then Simon Mace is sitting in fourth place.
Yeah, great stuff. Huge quality field here at the Athletics New Zealand Cross Country Championships, and we can't forget the races within the race. This particular race, 5-year age group championships all the way back to 60 to 64, so plenty of racing ahead of us. But Oliver O'Sullivan, so impressive, has now built a solid 50-metre lead in absolutely no time over Ben Ruth as he nears the top of Heartbreak Hill, Hayden. He has broken the will of Ben Ruth, absolutely blowing this race wide apart at this stage. The athlete from Hill City University Athletic Club looking very strong.
Incredible running. And there you can see it's pretty tight for second, third and fourth.
There's Richard
on
Bennett,
the course.
Richard Bennett, 021 from Canterbury, former national steeplechase champion. James Kugler, TTT runners. Good to see the coach still out there getting after it, looking very good technically over that hurdle. New Zealand representative over the ultra-marathon distances, James Kugler.
But Oliver O'Sullivan is teaching this quality field of Masters runners a lesson or two at the moment, but he's still got quite a bit of work to do with about, do we call it 2K from here, a little over a mile to go?
Let's call it 2K from the Love Taupo sign, Hayden. Got to do a quick acknowledgement. Thank you the other day for helping me to figure out my pronunciation of Taupo. It's taken me a while after a lifetime of saying Taupo.
It's one of those tongue twisters that you look at it and it doesn't sound like the shape that your mouth needs to make. And I think the macron is really helpful to just lengthen out that or at the end. Taupo.
Yeah. No, I am grateful because it is important. You know, it's easy to continue doing what you've always done, but actually there is a correct pronunciation for these Māori geographical locations. So very, very happy to be here at Spa Park in Taupo.
And look at this beautiful scene as Oliver O'Sullivan drops down Riverview Hill, down towards the Waikato River, and look at those heels flying up. He is shifting, probably moving more than 20k an hour down this hill, and he is showing a clean pair of heels to the rest of the field. Remember last time they came through here, 3k ago, there was 11 of them. Now it's just one. It's just one runner and the course. And the beautiful Waikato River behind. Now just about, 4 or 5k down the road there is the Hooker Falls. So one of the great things you can do as an extended warm-down jog. And for those not running the relay or want to do an extended warm-down jog after the relay, head down to Hooker Falls down the river trail.
Yeah, now I would rate that, Hayden, as one of the best runs in New Zealand. So park up at Spa Park in Taupo and head down those trails. You can actually head down, I think, for about 10 kilometres in one direction. So as an out and back long run, you can't do much better than that. You can't do much better than Oliver O'Sullivan has done today. He has blown this Masters men's race apart. Look at him, so strong with just under a couple of kilometres. No, hang on, it'll be about 1 kilometre to go.
It might even be less than that.
Yeah, and ignore the 6 kilometre icon there. It is an 8 kilometre event for these Masters men 35 to 64. Sorry, Hayden.
No, that's what the program said as well, but it is 8 kilometres for the event. So up Playground Hill, this is the last little battle that Oliver O'Sullivan has to contend with, and once he's up there, it's just a real sprint for the finish line, and the national title will be his again. Of course, we break these into those 5-year age groups, but look, the main thing is the bragging rights of being first masters over the line, really, isn't it?
Here he is, a tough little pinch. You see him slow down a little bit there, but he can afford to really soak this one in the last couple of 100 metres. Oliver O'Sullivan from Hill City University Club in Otago. Very, very strong performance today against a high-quality Masters field. There's, guys all through that top 10 have won this race before, and for him to come in today and absolutely dominate this, I find it very impressive, Hayden.
Here he comes. So this is the little downhill chute that will bring him onto the start-finish area, and then it's about 300, 350 metres to go, and he'll be getting a lot of support from friends and family. He's probably aware, look, I'm a 35 to 39 athlete. A lot of these runners behind me don't think I should be in the Masters category, so I need to prove a point here. And prove a point, that is exactly what he's done.
Well, yeah, look, I've got it. You've got a bit of a point. Like, I am glad the 35 group is in the Masters. It helps to retain athletes in the sport. But this guy looks like he'd be at least top 15 in that seniors race, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Really strong. So here he goes. Remember, it wasn't that long ago when the race was all together. It has been absolutely blown apart, and a bit of movement back behind as well. I can tell you that Ben Ruth has slipped down to 4th. Steve Rees-Jones is in 2nd. Simon Mace is in 3rd. But it's not a done deal. We'll have to wait for those finishing kicks. There is Steve Rees-Jones, but just off screen is Simon Mace trailing him. But shortly we'll go back to Oliver O'Sullivan as he rounds the bend, and here he will be, our first Masters athlete across the line. He'll take the national title in the 35 to 39. He'll get all the bragging rights tonight as they go and celebrate this race here at the New Zealand Cross Country Championships. Our top Masters man is Oliver O'Sullivan for another year from Otago.
Your shout at the bar tonight, Oliver. A very good run from the Otago lad. Let's get some footage of these other placing athletes coming in.
Steve Rees-Jones hangs on to it. He kicks for home. He'll be 2nd across the line, holding across a wonderful field behind him. Simon Mace clicks the watch a little bit too early, but he will finish in 3rd place. Ben Ruth battling all the way to the line, 4th place. He will take out the 45 to 49 category. And who have we got here? It is
2, 3, 5.
Alex Kelleher.
Alex Kelleher coming in to finish. I do believe there was another Canterbury athlete just in front of Alex. That's all right.
And Dan Clendon coming in from Wellington, gritting the teeth. That welcome sight.
Nick Moore looking very strong, 2nd in his age group last year.
Greg Derbyshire crossing the line.
Greg Derbyshire. So very strong performance from the Auckland athletes so far. Let's see how this team's race shakes out. Is that 3 Auckland athletes across the line? And here comes a 4th.
Auckland looking pretty strong.
That was Tim Hancock from Auckland coming in.
Tim Hancock from Auckland's coming in there. And another Aucklander coming across the line. Is that their top 5 already, Hayden?
Has to be Auckland for the team's title, you'd think. So, yeah, it was Tim Hitchcock actually coming across the line.
Paul Crowhurst. There's Adam Gallagher just been outkicked by Jamie Duncan from Wellington. Jamie Duncan ahead of Adam Gallagher. Very good performance from the Owairaka athlete off the back of a big holiday in Japan. He's done very well. Stephen Day from Wellington, one of our best performed and most consistent Masters runners.
That shows you how quality that field was, that Stephen Day was not anywhere near the front of that race.
Stephen Day's still banging out 2:40 marathons, so this is amazing stuff. Josh Campbell from Wellington now, so Wellington do believe he'll be the 4th Wellingtonian finisher across the line. So Wellington looking strong in this team's race as well. James Kugler just leading in another Auckland athlete. Hawke's Bay, Gisborne's and Auckland's.
Steve Morrow from Gisborne Harriers. As all these runners come in to finish what has been a fantastic Masters race. We saw the M65s first of all, and that was brilliant to get things underway. Then we saw just a domination from Lisa Cross in the Women's Masters, and it was all Oliver O'Sullivan as we see some great sprints. Oh, mate, Alistair Saunders, who I played in the Freiburg High School jazz band with. I was on bass guitar, Alistair was on drums, and we were in the same year group, so well done, Alistair. Still at it.
Yeah, and so this is going to bring us close to a wrap for session 1 here at the 2023 New Zealand Cross Country and Relay Championships. I've got to give a shout out to Puma. Puma is a major partner of Athletics New Zealand, supporting our top athletes by providing them with high performance and high-tech gear as they compete on the domestic and world stage. To further support the athletes, Puma is on the ground at major events, supporting its sponsored athletes and giving the local athletics community product trial opportunities. We're very grateful for your support, Puma. Session 2 not far away.
Yep, so plan out your afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. There it is. We'll be back just before 12:40 for the afternoon coverage. And there's the two big races, 2:15 for the senior women, 10 to 3 for the senior men. Set your clocks, go and grab some lunch, and we'll see you back here in about an hour's time.
Ka kite anō.